Hello everyone and welcome to another in the series of Inspiral Wellbeing Toolkit videos. Now, when we realised that we could no longer run Inspiral physically because of the lockdown, Matt and I were inspired to put this toolkit together. And it allows all of our lovely Inspiral members to hear from the friends of Inspiral from the comfort of your own living rooms, home or garden,
anywhere,
wherever you are.
Yeah.
It's a completely free resource available to stream or download. And please feel free to forward it on to whoever you think might benefit from these messages.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We just feel like it's a really good thing to do, to be able to fly the flag for Inspiral and kind of get out there and reach the community, even with all of this stuff that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited, I have to say, because our guest today is actually well known to Inspiral, and to be honest, he is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, I have to say, why, and there's a clue in that, why I'm sitting right here today.
Oh God, is that who we've got to blame?
Yeah, that's okay. I did tell Matt he was on car park duty when we were first doing this. So he's done really well since then. But yeah, basically when I was first asked to take over the Inspiral group, quite some years ago now, I had this fear that literally charged through my body like a herd of horses. It's a herd of horses, isn't it? Yeah. And I didn't feel very confident and certainly did not want to talk in front of people. And I just didn't think that I'd be good enough. But at the Inspiral meeting, directly before we took over, we went to see a speaker, and I met an amazing guy there who was a transformational coach called Cheung, and he was coming the following month. In fact, he was the first speaker that I was going to be introducing.
Oh, I remember that. You were really nervous, weren't you? And you were kind of on the verge of saying, actually, I don't want to do Inspiral, I can't do it. Yeah, I do remember that.
And actually, came up to me and said, oh, congratulations, I hear you were taking over Inspiral. And I literally went into shock because I hadn't told anyone. I didn't realise that, you know, Caroline had spoken to anyone about it, and just came out with it. And he saw the fear on my face. I literally thought I was going to pass out at that moment. And I said, well, I haven't agreed to it yet. And he was like, and why? Why not? Of course you can do it. And I was like, I don't like speaking in front of people. And literally, he kind of just, I won't go into it now, but it was like, speeded up. Yeah, it was really amazing. And I just stood there, and the next minute I found myself just speaking more confidently, and I got up, I introduced why, and I even put my hand up to ask questions, which I never do. I always sat at the back of the room with kind of like feeling really small. And so I'm introducing you all to Cheung today, and I am so grateful for you. So, welcome,
Hi, Wai. How you
Lovely
doing?
to see you.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Beautiful introduction.
I absolutely remember that look. It was literally the kind of thing you might see if you were driving towards a rabbit and it's in the middle of a road.
Yeah.
It's like.
It was.
That looks familiar.
I've had a few of those moments since.
Yeah, and there's immediately at that particular point that right, we got to do something to sort that out, because this is not going to go well if we don't.
I witnessed all that firsthand, actually, and I was so impressed with how you turned that situation around. The person that came out of that meeting that night was a very different person to the one that went in, and I mean that sincerely. I had to deal with it all before, and all the nerves.
And look where you guys are now, and look what you're doing. You're the one inviting me here to interview me.
We're interviewing you. We're interviewing you.
So that's utterly brilliant. So that you come a long way since that point. But that was it did feel like a pivotal moment there, which is why I think, because if I remember rightly, I'd gone there to promote the next month's.
That's right.
Which is when I was going to be going on. And at that particular moment, I was like, you know what, whatever else I'm here for, forget it. This is the most important thing we're going to deal with right now. Who I am. My name is Cheung. I run my own coaching and kind of therapy business. I guess it's more focused on the coaching and expansion element of things, called transformyourworklife.com. And I'm primarily focusing on the successful executives who've basically outgrown their careers and have got to the point where they feel like, I need deeper purpose in my life before it's too late. And we'll come to that a little bit later on from my own personal experience of that kind of thing as well. And then what I do is I help them to uncover their purpose and leverage all the skills and all the power that they've got to make a meaningful difference for the rest of their working life. Now, that's really relevant because from what you've just described as, Krisha, it sounds like that's what happened. That's what you're doing now. This is your thing now, isn't it? Yeah. So it's wonderful. So, I mean, for me, the way in which I got into this in the first place was through a mixture of personal experience and also the situation I was in at the time, which is a bit of a weird one, really, because at the time I was working for a very well-known telecoms company. I'm not naming any names, but you will have known of them and experienced something from them. But I was in a job where I was doing really well. I was on the fast track on the ladder up to executive levels, and they were looking for new leaders who were going to take over the company as the old ones were going to be leaving, and so on. Anything I wanted, I could have had, as long as I could argue a business case. And the work that I was doing was still saving the company somewhere in the region of about £20 million a year in energy savings right now. So I was doing my best possible work at the time, but I started getting really stressed out, even though it was stuff that I thought I enjoyed doing. But there was something inside me that had figured out that this is not where I'm meant to be. You sometimes get that feeling that even if people turning around to you saying, "Hey, you're really great at your job, and we think you're wonderful, you're amazing," and inside you're thinking, "Yeah, but I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't know what it is." But and a lot of people just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until something inside snaps. And then they get to either midlife crisis or health crisis or mental health crisis, whatever it is that the body has to do to stop you because you're not following your heart. Now, that I was probably about mid-30s at that point, and I remember one day driving back along Trumpington Road, just coming back from work, normal day, started getting heart palpitations. I was thinking, this can't be right. I can't be starting to have a heart attack or whatever else at this sort of age. And my hair had gone grayer over time as well, even at that sort of age. Now, since I've moved away from that space, I don't get that heart palpitation feeling anymore. It doesn't matter how stressful, how difficult things are, and I've got less gray hair now.
Oh, great.
10 years on from where I was there. And so, but at that particular moment, that was my wake-up call. To actually say, hey, if it's almost like a voice in my head as well as the feeling in the chest was going, if you don't do something about this now, we're going to do something for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was at that point where I thought, right, I've got to figure out what's going on here, because this doesn't make any sense. In normal, sensible sort of thinking, someone else would tear my right arm off for the job that I had. But yet here was me thinking, I don't want that anymore. And so that's where at that point I had to explore what it was I really wanted, figure out what was really, really important to me, my rationale, my reason for being. And then once you discover that, hooray, but then all the other obstacles come along and say, well, you can't have that. That's not going to work. You're not going to get paid well enough to do that. And you can't keep the mortgage and the roof over your head. So there was all sorts of inner stuff, like the fear of failure, the doubts, and what are other people going to think about me, and how am I going to put myself out there? Okay. As you described there, Krisha, it's to some degree easier when you're representing something else. Like if you're going as a company representative to go in front of people and say, hey, this company's brilliant and great. But when you've got to put yourself up there and you say, hey, what stuff that Krisha does is great. It's like, boom. If you thought you had difficulty getting out, speaking to the world, getting out to the world when you talk about somebody else's stuff, try to do it with your own stuff.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I know. So that was where I sort of went out to seek all the help that I could to be able to break that down. And since then, I've learned an awful lot. about changing your own inner state and how to go about responding and behaving to things, but done in a way that it can be quick and practical, that you can use there and then on the spot, like we did. You know, I think we must have taken about 10, 15 minutes.
That's right.
While we were there.
Yeah.
So all these things are, as wonderful as all the tools that are out there, I think they can only be useful if we can use them on the spot and not have to lay out all the right candles and get the right mood music and find a nice quiet space, because the likelihood of you doing that is so low.
Well, how did that feel when you quit your job? I mean, what was that like?
It was, don't get me wrong, it was still scary. We had we had 2 mortgages going on because we were reluctant landlords because of the housing crisis at the time, because my partner had a house that we were stuck with and we were losing on rent every month. So I had that to pay. We had a 5-year-old and a new baby coming along.
Wow.
At that point, when I say to her, "Hey dear, I think I need to quit my job." You can imagine that went down well. But having said that, she's been very supportive. She's amazing. She completely understood. I think she may have understood the stuff long before I did. But it was scary. It was, I'm going from a very sort of solid salary, benefits and all that kind of thing, and a type of work that people could understand, and they're looking, "Oh wow, you're doing really well," to go and help people find their purpose and uncover their inner selves and get alignment and congruence with their mind and their heart and their spirit. And oh my God, even talking about it now, I can imagine what some of my old colleagues might have thought about that.
Yeah, it's some people would quite a nebulous concept, can't it? Finding yourself, and
absolutely,
must be quite.
And even today, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to try and describe to people. And you guys must get this.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you describe to people what you do? Oh, I help people become much better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds great. But what does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely there. It is an issue, isn't it? I think
it was scary.
It is scary, absolutely. And I've heard you speak actually, so I know a little bit about what you do, and I know that you've helped a lot of people. One of the things that stuck with me actually when you last spoke, and admittedly this was a few years ago when I heard you last, a proper session, was something called the 5 whys. And I wanted to ask you about that, because actually the principle of it is something that I've done in my life ever since. I started doing it consciously, and now I think I've done it so many times, I'm actually doing it at a subconscious level in every situation. I think that would be really useful to people and Inspiral. And I wonder whether you'd like to give us a little rundown of what that.
Of course. I'll give everyone the short version. There was obviously a lot more detail and subtleties underneath it to be able to make it a much more effective, efficient practice.
Yeah.
But in short, well, actually, let's put a bit of context around this. Linking to what I was saying earlier on, is absolutely critical or crucial for us as people to be on purpose. Now, and it's not just a nice to have, which it used to be. When people used to talk about that, say, "Oh, well, you're obviously on one of these woo-woo spiritual journeys now." Yeah. Now we're finding actually people being off their purpose and living in a way that actually contradicts or conflicts what's actually really inside their core, really inside their heart, can actually lead to all sorts of health problems and issues and so on, because it's just a lack of congruence. We're fighting ourselves constantly. Yes. I hate this job, but I need to do it to pay the rent, or pay the bills, or I'm in this job because I've been in it for a long time and I've risen up to a high level and I can't leave it now, because if I do, how am I going to start all over again? All these kind of things. The difference between the way you think and the way you feel, and that constant pulling and pushing it against just makes it really difficult to get things done, because you're going one way to the next and so on. Mm-hmm. So this process was one that I was taught by one of my coaches. There's a gentleman called Bill Barron over in San Francisco. I've gone back and forth to do the training over a few years. And again, I don't think he originally created it either. In fact, it actually comes from, I believe it comes from the Toyota Motor Company. But we won't go into too much detail on that for the moment. But the Japanese manufacturing processes were so good. They were actually taken over there by Europeans who were being kicked out of UK and America because they were trying to make products that would last forever. And the people and the company owners and the unions go, no, we can't have that. Otherwise, they won't buy
Nobody
new stuff.
buys the car.
Right, exactly, right? So, I mean, I've got a 25-year-old Honda, which still works perfectly. Anyway, so what this process is about, it's about almost like digging down deep into understanding why something is important and why something works. And in this way, it helps you to be able to connect to the real reason for why you're doing things. Because quite often what happens is when we ask ourselves why we're doing what we're doing right now, we end up going wide. We find more examples at the same level rather than going down deeper. And once we do this practice often enough and we ingrain it, what happens is then you start thinking about everything. Like, I want a cup of tea. Why do I want that? What do I get from that? What do I get from that? What do I get from that? Actually, what I really need is this. So you go straight to the thing you really need and forget the cup of tea if it wasn't actually a cup of tea that you needed, or a drink. So it's really a way of shortcutting a lot of the activities and things that we do, so we get more to the point of what's really resonant with us.
Okay. So to take that sort of cup of tea analogy, so you'd be saying to yourself, I want a cup of tea. You go in with a kettle, but you ask yourself, why do I want this cup of tea? Maybe you just had one 10 minutes ago or something, and you're thinking, well, actually, maybe I don't need it. Maybe I'm just bored. Okay, so why am I bored? Well, I'm bored because I haven't got the motivation to do what I want to do right now. Well, why haven't I got the motivation to do what I want? And then you're getting right down to that sort of core reason, all from this sort of fairly trivial cup of tea. And I know this is only an analogy, but it's a really interesting process to do to yourself.
Well, I would also add an interesting twist to that could make that even more powerful. So okay, we're going back to the cup of tea. I'm not sure this is the greatest example to use.
We've got it now.
I noticed, is that tea or coffee you're drinking there?
Yeah, it's a drink, yeah. So what happens is, instead of even asking, why is this happening? Because that can then lead you down a rabbit hole into all the negative stuff. Right. What can really, really make this practice even more powerful is you ask yourself, why is it important to me? It's really, really crucial. Like, why is it important to me? And then the subtitle or subtext underneath that, what do I get from this? And it has to absolutely be something that's very, very selfish. I know in spiritual circles, this is something you're not supposed to talk about. So, okay, let me change it. Let me say be more self-aware or self-full. Okay, it is about understanding yourself. So it isn't like, why do you want to help heal the world? Well, because the world needs healing and blah, 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 blah. Well, yes, it does, but that doesn't help you understand what's going on inside of yourself. Right. So it's all about the process of understanding what's going on inside of you. So back to our cup of tea. I want a cup of tea. So, okay, why is that important to me? Because I need to get away from my screen right now. Oh, okay. So it's not about a cup of tea anymore. It's about getting away from the screen. Okay, so then another one of the key aspects is you forget about the cup of tea. You're now looking at get away from the screen. So this is how we start going deep instead of going wide. So you go, okay, why is it important for me to get away from the screen? So I can just refocus myself. I'm losing concentration here. I need to refocus. Okay, forget the screen, refocusing. Why is that? Even as a whole concept, why is refocusing so important to me? What do I get from that? Well, when I refocus, then I'm able to target the things that I really need, and I can be more, I can be more targeted in what I do. Oh, okay. Forget the focus. Being more targeted. Why is that so important for me? And what do I get from that? Well, when I'm more targeted, that means I'm more effective, and I feel like I'm on purpose, and I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing. And that all came out from a cup of tea.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
And every tiny little thing we do, everything links to everything. It's all interrelated. And when we start using the most mundane, silly things, but break it down deeper and deeper and deeper, what's going to happen is you're going to find a set of things that you really want, but those are the real things that tie into the core part of what you're all about. And that way, you can then miss out some of the things in between and go straight for the thing that you really, really wanted now that you know what it is.
Yeah. That is, I mean, it's fascinating stuff. And actually, I personally, as I said, I use it, and I'd encourage everybody to give that a go and challenge yourself, because it does make you think about your behavior and your perceptions, and what, as you said, you know, what it is that you want to focus on. And, you know, we mustn't see that as selfish, because ultimately that can benefit other people as well. So I think if we sort of building from that, there's a sort of sub thing there that's coming through about the selfishness and things like that. That one of the phrases that management consultants use, probably every management consultant has ever used actually, is moving you out of your comfort zone, right? And we all know that phrase, if you're ever at some sort of training event, that is the phrase that makes you cringe and
they're going to call me up now.
Exactly.
They're going to make me do something.
What
really
am I going to be asked to do? So, and of course that puts us in an uncomfortable position, and it soaks up sort of negative feelings. But we do understand that you have to do that, or do we? Do you need to put yourself in uncomfortable positions and put yourself, sorry about air quotes, but in out of your comfort zone? Do you need to do that, or can you actually do work on yourself, meditation, self-reflection, things like that? Or is the secret a bit of both?
I think what's happened is there's been at the very least, a miscommunication about discomfort. At the very most, a total, utter misunderstanding. We're talking, not even talking apples and pears here. We're talking apples and buses. They are so far apart that, see, we've been taught that discomfort is a negative thing. Mm-hmm. So when we get uncomfortable, we think, well, we need to shift out of this discomfort and get comfortable again. And comfort is the place you want to be. It's always a balance. This is the whole yin yang thing. It's almost like there's discomfort and then there's comfort. But when you have too much comfort, after a while, you can be uncomfortable. Like, you know, we've been comfortable for a while, not having to run at the same speed as the rest of the world. But we're all starting to get a bit uncomfortable about that now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, comfort can only last for so long. Discomfort is a natural part of our being. If you think about everything you ever learned and everything you ever did, when you first started walking, that was uncomfortable. You weren't used to putting the weight on your legs and they're falling on your face or your bottom or whatever. That's uncomfortable.
And now you can't even remember that, can you?
Exactly. You know, the first time you went to do something that was different, that was new, it was uncomfortable. Anytime it was. Even when you start thinking, I normally have strawberry jam in my toast, but we're trying this apricot stuff right now. Don't know about that. Every little tiny point, there's always that balance between comfort and discomfort. And I think discomfort has been given a bad name. It needs a new marketing agent, basically. Because without discomfort, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't stretch beyond what we have currently. You know, we'd stick to the same flavors. We wouldn't be able to walk, right? And I would say it's not so much about taking yourself out of your comfort zone. I would put it more as leaning into the discomfort. Because what discomfort tells you is you have now reached the limit of your ability and the limit of your knowledge. You are about to step off into new ability and new knowledge. And awareness shows you that by making you feel uncomfortable. So that's how you know when you reach that, I'm about to start something different and new here. Which at the very least, if we have that in mind, along with, oh my God, I'm not used to this. It can at the very least balance where we are at that point.
So it's mindset, really, in many ways.
It is to some degree. That's the first part, I'd say, the changing the mindset, changing your perspective of what discomfort does for you, and changing it to actually discomfort is a great, instead of a red flag, discomfort is a shining beacon showing me that I've just reached the edge of where I can go and I'm about to go off on this wonderful journey beyond that. And the other part is, this is linked quite neatly to a lot of the work that I do, which is about helping people to change those unconscious reactions, the things that come up. They're going to ask me to run Inspiral and speak in front of people, and that's part of what actually shows us the discomfort. So for me, it's when that comes up, that's your awareness showing you, hey, this is something you need to work with. is not something you just have to fight through and the old feel the fear and do it anyway type thing. It's actually feel the fear, notice it, be aware that it's here, and know that this is something that has up till now been limiting you, and you've now been shown that limitation so you can do something about it.
Yeah. So going on from there, I mean, I often, I have to admit, suffer from procrastination.
What?
Didn't see me whacking
Can we not talk about this right now? Let's talk about something else instead.
I suppose that is a fear of change, isn't it? Would you say?
Oh, procrastination. That's one that procrastination has had a brilliant marketing team, because we've been taught that it's just a minor little thing. Procrastination, yeah, you know, you just need to get on and do it. You get off your bottom and go ahead and do the thing. You know, you can do it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But procrastination comes in so many amazing, wonderful, clever, sneaky forms. As smart as you think you are, all the parts inside you are many times smarter. One of my coaches used to say, you know, she knows something isn't going wrong when she knows she's smarter than the experience she's having. And what happens is procrastination is fear-based.
Yeah.
It's related to what if something goes wrong? What if it doesn't work initially? This is the thing when I had said to one of my mentors in the past, where those of you who know me again might have heard the story already, when I went up to Tom, who was my mentor at the time. I said to him, look, I think I've got a fear of failure pattern. Really struggling with doing this thing. He goes, oh, you think you've got fear of failure? If that's the case, how come you're so good at it? Ow! That was mean. That hurts. It's the truth right to the right to the between the eyes. But it's absolutely true. If fear of failure was accurate, then you'd be running at high speed, leaving a flame trail behind you straight to success.
Yeah.
If you're so afraid of failure. So it's not that, because the procrastination means you failed already. Right? You've actually chosen failure. You've actually chosen to fail beforehand. Go, look, see, I'm in control. I control my own failure because I'm going to fail right now. So it's not fear of failure. It's fear of success.
Right.
Because if you did that thing and it went well, everything would change. Your whole life would change. You know, if you stopped doing the work you're doing at the moment to go chase for a great vision or a dream of something you've always wanted to do in your life, everything around you is going to change. It's going to change for all the people around you as well. You guys know this. You've done this, right? As well. So the people who won't like it, the people you'll make other people very uncomfortable, and you'll be doing things that are really a lot of that stuff that's out of your comfort zone. Talked about. So it's so it goes to fear of procrastination, to fear of failure. We're doing the 5 whys on this already. Procrastination, fear of failure, fear of success, and then the fear of success, as we just said, everything will change, is ultimately a fear of change, which we have built into us from way back at the beginning of human development. That if you change something, potentially there is a danger.
Yes.
You know, if you decide that you're not going to fish in that stream anymore, you're going to go off and plant these things in a field in the hope that they'll grow next year and give you some food, that's a huge change. That's a potential life-ending or species-ending move. So that's why we have built in deep into us that fear of change. Even if, I mean, the people watching this and people in Inspiral, obviously all people are really interested in change and they're driven by wanting to change themselves, wanting to change the world, but that doesn't stop this deep underlying thing still being there, saying, stop it. Don't do that. Stay where you are. We know what we've got. Even if it's painful and horrible, we know it. We're safe here. And that's what it really is. And that's one of the things that I really focus on shifting and changing for my clients as well at a deep level, without analyzing where the stuff came from and so on. We just work with exactly what the body's been showing you, that discomfort that Matt was talking about earlier on. When your body feels the discomfort, it's actually your awareness telling you, hey, the pattern and the response lives here. Put your focus here. And of course, when we don't do that, that's where that particular part starts shouting louder.
Exactly. Sorry,
I was
go
going
on,
to say,
carry
it's an
on.
example that, it's like they sent you an email, you didn't listen, a text message, nothing, WhatsApp message, nothing, and it sent you a letter, not that anyone sends letters anymore, I sent you a letter, didn't listen. Eventually, that pattern throws a brick through the window. Massive crisis. I mean, whether it's a health crisis, healing crisis, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, we're focused on patching up the window. No one's reading the message on the brick.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is what we've missed out. We need to focus on the message before it becomes a brick through the window.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a few of those.
Well, not literally.
No.
So
Sorry, Christian.
by breaking free of those patterns, that literally can bind us, and can be so difficult to change. Now, you've talked us through the 5 whys. Are there any other tips or tools that you could just share with us about how to change your mindset and challenge yourself?
Yeah, I would say one of the most important ones is to notice when you have that discomfort and just pay attention to it without judgment. This is the really hard bit. To try not to judge us. This is something bad and horrible. I don't want to feel this. Go away. That's called suppression and avoidance, which is what's led us to where we are.
Right.
So instead, you actually pay attention to it, because your awareness would not have brought it to you if it wasn't important. Right? So you just pay attention to, where do you notice it? How do you feel it? Does it feel like a pressure all around you? Does it feel like there's something solid inside you? Or does it feel like there's something twisting in your gut? Just allow yourself to observe it. And even just doing that is going to reduce the amount of craziness that's going in your head, because you've focused your attention on the actual thing itself and how it's being presented to you, rather than, oh no, I'm feeling like this, and that will mean this, and these horrible things might happen. And then you're building up all these scenarios, fear scenarios, by the way. We make it worse for ourselves in our heads, which aren't even real. Or we take ourselves back to something that happened in the past, which was horrific, and we relive it, rather than, here I am right now, feeling like a rabbit in the headlights, feeling this twist and this fear going on. I'm just going to notice it. I'm just going to pay attention to it. And this isn't the same. Yeah, this isn't the same as sit there and allow it to sort of process through. I'm actually talking about just sit there and just notice whatever it's doing, and however you feel it. I mean, again, we don't have time to do it today here, but there's a suite of techniques that I've created that I call the reaction code, whereby the first step is to learn to notice this. And when somebody says something to you in a certain way, and you can feel that tightness around your throat, or you can feel that pressure around your head, or weight on your shoulders, or that lump appear in your solar plexus, we've all got this stuff going on. This is part of our natural physiology and how this works. Pay attention to that and notice what's going on there. And just by doing that, you're actually allowing your awareness to do some of the work on that without even having a specific tool, a specific process. It's just changing where you put your attention. So that's the simplest thing I can say for people. I mean, once we do go forward to do any further work on it, I mean, with Christian, what we did is I got you to notice the pattern and then what to do with each one. And there's only a couple of things you need to do with them. And once you learn how to do that, I can imagine you're probably doing this automatically without even realizing you're doing it anymore. And the same with the 5 whys. You do these things often, and if you start with a simple process, do it often enough, and it becomes ingrained. It just becomes something that you do. You don't even have to think about it anymore. Because the moment you start thinking about it, then all the horror scenarios are all going to start coming with the thinking.
All flooding in,
Oh yes, yes. They go. Oh, you want to start thinking about stuff? Here you go.
There you go. Have some stuff to think about.
Actually, there's one thing actually I just want to say about the thinking thing. This isn't about getting rid of the mind, because we obviously need the mind, otherwise we wouldn't have it. But the important thing is about getting the mind and the feelings, getting your thoughts and your feelings, or your mind and your heart, coming from the same place, so they both agree with each other. And one of the things that happens when we put everything in the mind, because that's what we've been taught to behave. That's what we go to school for, to teach us how to use the mind. And then if you start crying, you get told to be quiet, or you get a few cuddles until it goes away, or whatever. They're never dealt with. You've never been taught how to deal with that. But what happens when we do the stuff in the mind is, when the mind is confused, if you've got 3 things to decide on, and you can't decide on which one, what does the mind go and do? It goes looking for more information. Now you've suddenly got 8 things to decide on when you first had 3. I don't have enough information, so I've got 400 things, and that's how all this stuff happens.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I can
so if we just
see that.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of us are great over-analyzers. So if we just instead put it to where you're noticing the thing, instead of going there, go here.
Yes. Yeah. So personally, do you sort of find that there are any practice or rituals that you do to try and keep yourself into that zone? Maybe meditation or something like that. I mean, for you personally, to try and keep focused on what you do.
Yeah, some of your members probably hate me for saying this, but I don't get on with meditation. Actually, I can't sit still long enough for meditation. So one of the tools I do teach my clients is how to get to that same space that people are getting to trying to get to. That big empty space where everything's clear is actually already there. What we've done is sometimes, and I can't speak for all forms of meditation, but the ones I've encountered and the ones I'm aware of, we spend a lot of time taking a thought and disassembling it. But instead of that, you just go around it, because that space is always there. It's your pure awareness. So one of the practices I do is to routinely remind myself about that. The fact that space where you want to go into. So maybe I do meditation, but I've somehow do a shortcut version.
Different way. Yeah.
So you just access that space. So that's really good, because that then does the quietening down the mind without having to do all the hard work of pulling apart all the thoughts to quieten them. The thoughts are still there. Yeah. I'm just not putting my attention on them. That's all. Yeah. I'm putting my attention in the space on the other side. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do often is when something's going wrong, and by wrong, I mean that I feel something's going wrong because I can feel discomfort. Yeah, I can feel the pressure or the something unpleasant going on inside.
Yeah.
And my first move is then to, instead of analyzing why this thing's happening and how I should stop it and whose fault it is, I'm going straight to, okay, where am I feeling this thing? Let me work with that first before I come back to analyze. And what you'll find when you do that is when you come back, there's a lot less information. You're not still looking at 400 things. You're back to the 3 things or 2 or maybe even 1 thing by then.
You mean whereas in physically you're feeling?
Yeah. Where you physically sense it. Right. Even if you sense it like all around you.
Okay.
Sometimes it's inside you, sometimes it's around you. If it's inside you, it's usually because of some old trauma. But I don't want to tell people too much of that stuff, because then they're going to go thinking about it, and I don't want that to happen.
Because you're actually an emotion code practitioner as well. So do
I am,
you use
yes. that? The emotion code is for anyone looking at the emotion code, I would recommend it highly. I learned the emotion code probably about 8 or more years ago now. I've really been thankful for having gotten that. However, what I do now, obviously having used the emotion code for a long time and all the other tools I've learned, the processes that I use now, I feel are quicker. And sorry, Dr. Brad, I feel in some ways more effective, because I've built upon what I've learned from the practice and the things. And I'm sure he does it a lot faster than he's teaching, because we're always a couple of steps ahead of what we're actually teaching, right?
Oh, so that's right. Some of these techniques are sort of stepping stones into thinking about things totally differently, aren't they? They're not.
Absolutely. I mean, the emotion code talks a lot about muscle testing. Yeah. To work out, and which makes perfect sense, because your body, again, we're talking about your awareness and your body knowing everything there is to know about you. So why didn't you ask it? And that's when if you're imbalanced, then that tells you that something isn't working. When you're solid and balanced, then that means it is. So that's how the muscle testing works. But one of the things I really remember, what Bradley Nelson said to me, is he said that actually muscle testing is like training wheels for the intuition. Once you get used to it, you just know. In fact, for the people watching right now, if you do muscle testing, you probably already know what the result's going to be before you even started, but you do it anyway, because it's a ritual, something you get used to doing, and it gives you comfort to know that that's what that's what's come out. But you already knew, and after a while, you just go to that place. And you instantly know them without actually having. Then you can have both your hands, so you can do stuff.
Perfect. That's what you want.
And the processes I use in the reaction code differentiating from the emotion code, because I'm looking at things as a reaction, as in there's emotion in there, there's the thoughts, there's also the energy, there's multiple factors all going on at the same time. So I termed it more a reaction. So with the reaction code, I teach people techniques that don't actually require any further spiritual knowledge or any, I mean, muscle testing, for some people, you have to step beyond your comfort zone and step out to another belief to be able to do that. Yeah. Even if we use the official terms like the German term kinesiology, which sounds much more scientific and normal, which of course it is, but even then, it still takes a step of imagination to be able to, to be able to step out into that. Whereas what I'm showing people is, look, when your mum says that to you, you get that buzzing in the back of your head. That's all you need to know. Work from that.
Yes.
So simplifies it back down and takes more steps out of the process to still get the result at the end, but without having to learn too many new things, which I'm not against. Everyone should always expand their knowledge, but you should always have simple, straightforward, immediately applicable tools you can access.
Absolutely. So speaking about tools that you can access, how can people access what you do?
Okay.
Right now in lockdown, if somebody's listening to this and going, that's amazing, which I'm sure they are thinking, or at least they should be.
If we're doing our jobs right.
Are you running, yes, are you running any coaching sessions at the moment? Are there groups that they can join online?
At the moment, I do have a group online, but that's purely for my clients, because that way they already know how to use the tool, so we can just dive straight into shifting things in a big way. However, one of the other most useful things right now, because what happens is right now we're in a space where everything's been on hold, but we're slowly watching it open back up again now. So most people by now will be starting to think, oh dear, what am I've spent this time here. I've got to know myself a bit better. I know the kind of things I really want to be doing in my life. How am I going to hang on to that when I go out there? When the whole world the machines start rolling again and the cogs start turning, and I get caught up in all those other things that used to distract me away from myself before. So there's that element. There's also going to be people worried about how going back out into the old job the way they did it before, they don't want to do it anymore. They've had time to think about what's really important, whether it's family or gardening, I don't know, whatever, or things that they thought about, or that book that I've always wanted to write, and things like that. And how do they hang on to that dream and actually start? Now that you've got an opportunity to almost like restart things, how to then start steering those things in the direction of what you ultimately really want, rather than going right back to where you were before. You know, I'd say the majority of us were not majorly, not the happiest bunnies in the world doing that.
No, it's
some few of us. A few of us who are lucky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, as you say, it's about trying to bring in what we've learned about ourselves now into that new normal. As that phrase keeps being said.
New normal,
sorry.
But, you're full of these corporate speak things, aren't you? And I'm the corporate guy, aren't I?
Why has happened to me?
In fact, you had somebody coming in and saying, what was he saying?
Oh, you know, we're going to help you. This is where I work, and they were saying, you know, we're going to help you grieve for the life you've lost. Okay, he's referring to life pre-lockdown. And I said this to someone else. I just said, I'm not going to be grieving for that life. So I don't know what that guy's helping me do, but
I mean, they need you. Obviously, why they need you.
So what I could say, actually, there's a session that I run for my clients. It's a one-to-one session, because the nature of this, everyone's why they want to do things and the issues that they're experiencing and the things that are stopping them from actually going ahead and doing it are different.
Right.
So that's why we have to do this on a one-to-one basis. And of course, that takes time, and there is a cost to that. However, I mean, the cost is these days around about £200 a session. But what I can do is I can offer to all the members of Inspiral, because you know this is such a great group. I'm part of Inspiral as well. I see the stuff you guys are doing, and I've learned a lot from attending the sessions, and also very thankful for getting the opportunity to speak to all members of Inspiral. So it's my way of giving back. to the Inspiral group, I can offer, there's a session that I run called the Uncover Your Meaningful Work-Life Breakthrough session.
Okay.
And this I put together years and years ago, but it sounds like it's more pertinent now than ever. Because what happens in this session is we identify what it is that you really, really want to be doing. I'll take people through the more advanced versions of that 5 whys process to actually identify what it is they really want. So now they've got the goal, we can then look at identifying what it is that's currently in the way and stopping them from actually achieving that goal.
Wow. Okay.
And even more importantly, what it is that's stopping them from having got past those problems. This is part of that procrastination thing. You know, if you thought that was your problem, that isn't. It's you're not dealing with the problem that's your problem. yeah, right, exactly. The meta, and then from there, the rest of the session will be focused on identifying what it is that you need to do to change that, and that's the result you'll get from the whole session. What it is you want to do, what's stopping you right now, what to focus on in order to change that. Now, during that actual session, if it seems like there's a good fit and it seems like there's something I can help you with, of course we can discuss that. But the actual result you'll get from the session is that thing, to walk away with more clarity on what it is you want, what's stopping you from getting there, and what you need to focus on in order to get there, regardless of whether you go on to work with me or not. Because the more people we have that are on path and on the direction, the more useful productivity we're going to have in the world, and the more people are going to be in tune with themselves and therefore more comfortable to some degree. It will generate discomfort. I'm sorry, I've got to say that it will, because you'll be faced with what you really want, and then faced with why you can't have it yet. So I would definitely recommend this only to people who are ready to make a change, or they know they really want to make a change and are struggling with making that change. I would not do this if you're just curious, because you may come away at the end with knowing a lot more than you really wanted to know right now. If you really want, I'm not seriously, but if you really want to know, what's going on inside yourself, and you're willing to put in your work to do something about it, then this session is absolutely for you.
Fantastic.
But at the end,
we'll put the details up on the screen after this video. So
yeah. So is this where I go? You can press on the button, what, here or here or here or here, or in the comments, or all that kind of stuff.
An editing task. There's a lot of.
Well, I've given you some options, so you can put the box wherever you like on the screen.
That's some heavy editing required there, but What? So
sorry, but I was going to say, but I forgot to mention that the Inspiral members, as long as you are an Inspiral member, don't try and cheat. We know who you are. Inspiral members can have this for free.
Oh, wow.
So there's no charge to Inspiral members for this. So I just wanted to say that before people start people looking at their accounts and go, "Oh, can I afford to do this?"
That's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Why.
You're welcome.
That's really, really.
How you can join and become an Inspiral member as well.
Yes,
of course. Yes, that's right. If you are really interested in finding out what your true meaningful purpose would look like and how to start on that journey and path to get there, then join Inspiral so you can get this session.
Yay! Thank you, Why.
Perfect. Now, we're going to probably have to finish off now, aren't we? Yep. But before we go, we've researched some very serious interviewing techniques. We've watched all of the David Frost interviews, and we want to ask you some
old school.
But old school now. But we want to ask you some really probing questions, and that's why we're going to start off asking you.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
The immediate response was black, but it's either black or orange, or maybe black and orange.
What is that? Black and orange. I guess I don't know what that makes.
Yeah.
Well, burnt orange.
No,
I'd say
slushy brown or something.
Because that is a brilliant answer.
Yeah.
You're the only person to ever say your favorite color is burnt orange. So
I'm not sure that's true, by the way. It's black or orange.
And the next one. Do you have a lucky number? First number that comes into your head.
Well, 7 came up and then 3 came up.
Oh.
You like doing doublers, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. This is just what came in. 7 came up. Lucky number 7. Everyone that says 7. How about another one? Oh, 3. I quite like 3.
Everyone does
Well,
You're a 7.
number 7,
You're
yeah.
a 7.
And
I'm not, I'm
numerologically,
2,
7
10,
plus
11.
3, that's 10. So that's a 1 numerologically.
Yeah.
And 1's a pretty
okay.
powerful energy.
Independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free
Powerful.
thought.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's
Oh,
why.
I can go with that.
I know. Do you want to go for the next one?
I'm going to go for, what was the last book that you read?
Last book that I read was 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson.
Jordan
It's
Peterson. Okay.
It's a very, very, actually, if I just take a second, just a couple of moments on that one, extremely controversial figure.
Right.
Has been tarred and feathered badly for being right wing and for saying horrible things, being racist and bigoted and anti-feminist and all these kind of things. All of it utterly untrue. So if you just look at read the book, or you just watch some of his videos, actually watch the whole thing, not just clips that people have taken out and then try to edit around. He's literally the world's most misrepresented person you've ever met. If I'd say to take an opportunity, just watch one. There's a really good video. It's got on something called the Femsplainers. It's Christina Hoff Sommers. When they're just talking to him as a normal person, he's not actually up against anyone who's being aggressively trying to mess him up. And you'll see that actually talks a lot of sense, and he talks a lot of the same stuff that we do. But he's
like
putting
Jeremy Corbyn.
I don't know enough about Jeremy's work to be able to compare him against Jordan, and I wouldn't dare do so. I don't think that's a good idea. And actually, I don't think they definitely don't agree on everything anyway. But yeah, and it's an absolutely brilliant book. I've got my just recently turned 13-year-old son who's currently reading this and getting a lot of really useful things about how to go about your everyday life and how to make your life more meaningful and less painful. And that's all he wants to do. He just wants is a Toronto University professor who's just telling everyone to tidy up your room. That's it.
Well, we will be googling that one way after this.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next one, the last film or TV series you watched?
We watched Return of the Jedi last night. We're working our way through all the Star Wars films.
Yeah.
We've got to that point at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You didn't have any Star Wars questions for me for this quiz then?
Well, we didn't know, but otherwise, yeah, I would have.
He'd be there forever.
Yeah.
You're just going through
You should see the Lego displayed out all over the front room everywhere.
Yeah, because there's that little thing behind you. That's not a Star Wars character, but
that's Jabba, isn't it? Jabba the Hutt.
No,
well, this guy.
Yeah, that's a little.
No, he's a salamander.
One of those. Yes.
He represents what is possible, because these guys can lose tails and regrow them again. They molecularly shift the pattern to stick to walls and things like that. These guys defy our current knowledge and understanding and belief about physics.
That's a big.
Well, not this one, because this was a Beanie Baby. This one doesn't.
Yes, I had one of those too.
Well, okay. Well, I think we're going to probably finish on what is probably the most important question. If you were an animal, what would you be and why? And I know what you're going to say now, because you've just told us about how amazing that salamander is. I don't say that, there's a problem.
I guess I'd be a gecko then. running up the wall, and yeah.
My
brilliant. So I really enjoyed that, and
as always.
And thank you so much for inviting me on as well.
Yeah, well, as always, it's just been incredible to connect with you again. And I know that we'll be speaking.
Yes.
After this as well, because I need some help with some procrastinating issues.
Well, you know what? Here we go. What we can do is we'll organise one of those Uncover Your Meaningful Work-Life Breakthrough sessions for you. So we'll go through that. So that will then help identify what it is that you then need to apply your tools on.
I'll be there.
So we'll do that. And obviously, once the world goes back to running with people being able to meet each other and all the rest of it, then of course that we can talk about any other contents that I've got that I would like to bring to the group, and we can all do it all together in the same place again.
Well, we'd love to have you at Inspiral.
Definitely would. Yeah.
So we'll sort that out as long as we can get together soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
We'll have to do it out in a field with a very big loudspeaker.
Yeah, hey, you're onto something. Write that down.
I know some DJ friends.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot, Y.
Brilliant.
Right.
Thank you guys. It's been great. Thank you. Bye bye.